Hi, thanks for joining me on The Gap, where we'll be exploring global academic perspectives on a range of aspects affecting the youth of today. The MYP Decoded podcast has had 4 successful years, and we've explored a number of really important topics. However, there are so many issues and aspects around international education that aren't necessarily MYP or IB specific. So for this reason, I've decided to adjust the focus of this podcast to allow for discussions on issues that potentially have a wider reach. I'm really excited about the upcoming conversations, and if you're a new or regular listener, I do hope that you'll help me get these conversations shared far and wide. A huge thank you to Alexander Farquhar, one of our grade 12 students who developed the music for this New Look podcast, and thank you to my son Marcus for designing the cover again. So we kick off this new chapter in the life of the podcast by addressing a topic which is one where opinions are certainly rife. Smartphones have been around for a number of years now, but in the grand scheme of things, not really very long at all. And the cognitive impacts, not to mention the psychological and emotional effects on young people in particular, are still being figured out. Part of the backdrop and rationale for choosing this topic now is that our school is exploring the idea of banning phones. And during the past week, we've had one grade 9 class trialing the lockable pouches, which I know many schools already use. We'll start this episode by diving straight into some of the impacts that phones are having on young people, with Katie Bryant, one of our school counsellors.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me to talk about this. It's something I feel pretty strongly about. I have been a school counsellor for mostly high school students for about 15 years. Before that, I was an English teacher, but then I retrained as a psychologist, and I've been working as school counsellor for that long. So,
okay. And in which countries?
A bit long in the tooth. Australia, UAE, and Singapore.
And you are the grade 6 to 8 specialist, which of course is the fun age group with the 11 to 14-year-olds.
But all the change happens.
Absolutely. And you obviously know a lot more about that than I do. I've done a little bit of reading recently, but so based on your training and experience as a psychologist for 15 years, what is your sort of psychological perspective on the relationship between young teenagers and their phones, seeing that this episode is all about phones?
Yeah, I think it's still such a developing area of study. And I think the more we're learning about the brain, the more we're learning about phones, we can sort of see this strange relationship between them. But I think if we go back to where, looking at an adolescent brain, there's so much happening in that adolescent brain. Okay. And so they go through a period where their brain is maturing. It's already developed. It's about as big as it's ever going to be, growth-wise. But then when they become adolescents, their neural pathways, it comes down to neural pathway development, and everything gets refined. They figure out what they're going to need, what sort of skills and strengths they're going to need. And so the brain starts adapting itself to what's in front of them. And so while there's still some brain development, there is parts of the brain that are sort of more developed than others. So the parts of the brain that are important here, one is the limbic system, and which, part of that is the amygdala. And that is all about socializing, it's all about emotion, and it's all about the threat. And that is operating at a much greater intensity. It's more developed than the part of their brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, that is about inhibition and impulse control and planning and organising.
And self-regulation.
And yes. Self-regulation. Thinking long-term, going, if I do this, what's going to happen next? Okay. That is less developed. So it's a bit of a shame that at the same time their emotions are much more intense than they have been in the past. And they're just they're just trying to feel their way around the world, and that is so powerful to them. Their threat detection, they're very sensitive to negative input. They're very sensitive to seeing negative things and perceiving negativity. Yeah, so you've got this threat detection, very quick to interpret things as being very negative, very emotional, so much is changing in their body, they're going through so much, but then less developed areas in being able to sort it all out and analyse it and figure out what it all means and have some kind of distance and separation and perspective on these things. It's just reacting to everything. And oftentimes this is when parents first give their child a mobile phone with sometimes very little structure or limitations around it. And you got that at the exact same time that students are going through all these huge developments that they can't even make out themselves. So you got this almost like a weapon against themselves.
So it's a perfect storm, which probably 99% of parents don't actually know about. Or they might have heard something, but they haven't necessarily upskilled in terms of all the research out there.
Yeah.
Of course, we've got the book by Jonathan Haidt, which I'm going to talk with Rachel about a bit more, where he delves more deeply into some of the specific aspects facing the generation, which is called now the anxious generation. So what about other aspects that they would be potentially better at if they didn't have the phones, like taking part in real world conversations? What else is there that they would be embracing more, like we used to?
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting comparison, isn't it? A pattern that I keep seeing emerging across a lot of students I talk to is coping strategies. And just about, I'm finding it increasingly difficult to find strategies that children will use that helps them cope, that helps them calm down, that helps them regulate, that helps them self-soothe, that doesn't involve a mobile phone. So what is happening there is there's this over-reliance on the phone to provide their needs for them. And they're not finding that within themselves. They're actually not learning how to self-soothe, how to talk to themselves in a way that calms them down, that gives them some perspective.
So the long-term self-soothing is not happening, and the phone it's basically short dopamine hits, isn't it? So they're sort of jumping from one thing to the next and getting that little quick fix.
Yeah.
And it actually exacerbates the problem, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It certainly doesn't. There's no long-term strengthening of any of the effective skills that we're trying to develop here at school as well.
Exactly. And from the phone, they get some distraction and they get some comfort from their friends. And so it really boggles my mind how many students, when I talk to them about, how did they cope with something upsetting that may have happened, like, I talked to my friends. I went onto Instagram for distraction. Distraction itself is no problem.
Okay.
Reaching out to your friends is no problem. But it's the reliance on those things to the point where they're not learning other coping strategies. And then what they're doing on the phone is eating into their sleep time. So a lot of them are up quite late. So then they're not going to sleep until 11, 12, 1 a.m, 2 a.m. because they're on their phone or on their device, talking to friends, distraction. But then they just wake up tired the next day, have to sit a full day at school, and the stressors haven't necessarily gone away. They're still struggling on less sleep now.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like the phone, yes, it helps solve one problem, but it also creates another one and compounds what is already
Absolutely.
there too.
Someone who is spearheading the idea of a phone-free learning environment here at the school is Rachel, who is the head of pastoral care in the secondary. Rachel has a number of really good insights when it comes to the rationale behind the idea of a phone-free environment, as well as the logistics involved. So I managed to catch up with Rachel last thing on Friday at the end of this phone-free trial week. Hi Rachel, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you here with this chat about phones and the phone-free week in particular, because obviously you're at the forefront of this. So perhaps you could quickly just sort of introduce your role and then speak briefly about your initial thoughts about the phone-free week.
Yeah, so I'm Rachel. I am the head of pastoral care for the secondary school. What kind of prompted this was we know that this is obviously a very hot topic with our youth, with our students. Our secondary students are directly impacted by device and technology and screen time use. And we know that a lot of schools around the globe are looking at ways that we can reduce screen time, but then also support the well-being and the development of our kids. So we decided that we wanted to trial having a phone-free week. So we selected a group of students from one advisory group at random so that they could trial having a phone pouch for the week. And this was a phone-free initiative rather than a phone ban. We wanted it to feel supportive throughout, but we didn't want it to feel like a punishment. we needed to see what would be the impact of our students being without their phones for the day. We have a phone policy already, which is students are not allowed to have their phones
Correct,
out.
yeah.
Our phone policy for teachers is that if the teachers see the students with the phones out, they are to confiscate them and students can get them back at the end of the day. But we know that for our school and as many schools that have the same type of policy, that it is inconsistently enforced. And we know that there's a lot of gray area. Through this week, we were able to find that a lot of the times that students were using their phones was actually for classes, for sending themselves things from the phone to the computer, taking pictures and evidence of their work,
Yep.
and sending it and posting it to their Toddle, to their learning platforms. So it really allowed us to kind of look deeper as to the place in our school day for phones. Is there a place, and what amendments would we need to make if we were to go fully phone free as a school?
So, I've had a nice chat with some of the students. That was on Wednesday, so this is at the end of the week. And I actually went in this morning to the advisory and I asked them, would you like to add any other thoughts? And they all seemed really comfortable with it. So I don't think anyone's against the idea. Of course, there are those logistics which you mentioned. So as you mentioned, a lot of schools around the globe already do this. And looking at the research, if you just do a very quick check, it is in some areas obviously more prevalent than others. I think some of the Asian countries and Australia in particular is pretty much everyone. So yes, we have sort of sat back and had a look at how things are going and at best practices.
This has made me look at this from all angles, from the angle of, a parent, as a teacher, as a senior leader, looking at it through the lens of the students. There's no argument that having a phone or having a smart device has provided a lot of convenience for kids and for parents. It certainly provides the peace of mind for parents to be able to reach their child at a moment's notice. However, that comes with a detriment because our students are still adolescents and they're still developing. To dive into a little bit more of the research behind this,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the research and the work that Jonathan Haidt has done through his book and his podcast about the anxious generation. He calls this kind of the great rewiring of adolescence.
Okay.
So from the onset of smart devices, and particularly with social media as well, around the year 2011, 2012, we've seen a massive shift in the development of children, and largely connected to their use of devices and use of phones. Kind of the four big harms or basic harms that he touches on for the detriment of kids is their social deprivation that comes with having a phone, sleep deprivation, attention fragmentation, and addiction. And from a school standpoint, we can see all of that. We can see socially how devices have impacted our students and how they interact with each other.
Correct.
Even our younger students on the younger side of the MYP, they are so used to being connected in some capacity that when you go out, you see them sitting together socially, but they're all connected to a device. Whether they're on their computers on our campus, or if you pass by, groups of kids at a mall or at a park, they're all together, but they're all bent over a phone. And so while they are socializing, they're not truly, authentically, and organically socializing together. As teachers, we see the effects of sleep deprivation more than ever. Our students are exhausted when they come to us. We know that they spend a lot of time on devices and screens at night, and there's no question the impact of blue light on the development of kids, and the impact that it has on their sleep. Attention fragmentation. I was reading a figure that showed that 42 seconds is about the time before students start to get distracted. And if you look at short form content that they absorb on social media and on streaming and all of the websites that they access, probably about 42 seconds to a minute is what influencers, content creators are aiming for to be able to grasp their watchers. So 42 seconds is pretty much how long we have our kids before they decide to think about something else or switch to another tab or switch to another screen. And then finally that cycle of addiction, and he references the hook model, where it genuinely hooks them in. There's a trigger in the brain, and then that action, which is the clicking and the scrolling, the kids get that reward. We know the gamification of apps and social media and websites, gives kids rewards and engagement, likes, comments.
That's great, isn't it?
It gets them hooked, but and then it keeps them invested and it keeps them coming back, and that is the cycle of addiction. So there's no question that this has truly had an impact on our kids. It has actually rewired them, and I think as educators we have to look at what can we do to counteract that and to help our kids.
Yeah, and it's so great having people like you who are actually looking at the research, the latest research. So our head of grade 9, John, was also actively involved in the phone-free week, of course. He also has some strong views on the issue of phones in school, and you'll hear from him next, followed by an interesting conversation I had with some of the students involved on Wednesday, so sort of midway through the phone-free week.
So I'm the head of grade 9 this year, and that's basically how I became involved. I had a meeting with Rachel one day. She mentioned that they were looking at bringing in the phone pouches as a trial. Got a few different boxes. I have a friend here who is with the company Disconnected Bags. Met him recently, and he said they were doing a trial in a few schools. They had different size bags, which was an issue we encountered. A lot of the phones students here have were a little bit too big.
Really?
For the phone pouches that were provided, so he had a few different sizes. Offered a trial to the school, and he brought it in. We're currently on day 4 of the trial, and it's finishing tomorrow with one class of grade 9s.
Excellent. And as you know, I had a short chat with some of those students yesterday, so it certainly is throwing up quite a few interesting anecdotes, questions, things to reflect on. So I think we'll take a lot away from this week. I'm interested to hear your experiences though. So apart from this phone week, you're in a unique position to observe how phones shape student behavior, particularly at the fun age of the grade 9s, of 14 turning 15. So throughout the day on a school day, so what are some of the patterns that you've noticed?
It's fairly noticeable to everyone. Generally they're walking around, AirPods in, heads kind of down on a regular basis, seeing what's going on. A lot of the time they are engaging with it in classes when they shouldn't be. There's kind of this belief that advisory doesn't really count as part of school time. School doesn't start until 8, so they're on the phone during advisory, missing messages, missing information about trips. And then there's always that reluctance that they don't want to give over their phone. And when you do get their phone, it's just constant Snapchat, WhatsApp, Instagram, all social media notifications coming in throughout the day.
Wonderful, yes.
Yeah, it's great when it's in your pocket and you've taken it from a student and it's vibrating more than yours. But even just looking at it from an academic point of view, in class, we've noticed that a lot of the time the students don't have the attention span to follow some tutorial videos that we've produced. Design, so product design, digital design. We've produced 3-4 minute videos for students that are step-by-step tutorials, but they've become so used to Instagram Reels, TikTok videos.
So you have to break the 4
shorts.
minutes down into 30-second blocks maybe.
We've noticed that 20 seconds to go from one screen to the other, so one video and then go back and do their own steps. They're kind of getting confused. It's like when the screen swipes, their memory swipes as well, and they don't know what to do. Yeah.
Okay, so having a phone-free week won't necessarily solve that issue, but at least it'll have them thinking less about the distraction of the phone in their pocket or in their bag.
I think so much of the phones is just habit. You regularly just checking your screen, and it's almost by default. We've just kind of got accustomed to it, kids and adults. We're just regularly like checking the phone. I'm checking the time. There's nothing happening, but it's just you're so used to picking up your phone, seeing what's going on. And when something does happen, you just lose focus.
Yeah, and grade 9 is at an age where, there are so many different kinds of relationships going on. The last thing you want them to do is suddenly tune out of what they're meant to be tuning into. So let's focus on some of the skills potentially that they could be developing this week, or if we had 2 or 3 weeks of phone-free, which types of skills they would be focusing on.
If you look at like the ATLs that we have in the school, healthy relationships, taking responsibility for actions, they're all things that are going to be impacted by phones. A lot of the time it's like, oh, I got a message, but the student is making the conscious decision to pick it up and respond to that message.
Okay.
Communication is a big one as well. I think just general communication, being able to talk to people, having conversations. Even though they're using phones so often, I see a reluctance for people to send emails to teachers or contact suppliers. We had a few students last year doing IAs in design technology, and they didn't want to make a phone call to ring a supplier for material for their project.
So it's an anxiety thing?
It's almost like a social anxiety, that they're not actually used to human connection and talking to another person.
And that's not going to get better, it's going to get worse.
It's not. That's the thing. And then self-management, obviously, as well. I mentioned that they're lacking focus, and one of the things we talk about is focus, concentration, and overcoming distractions.
Yeah, I think that's a big one.
Looking for that next dopamine hit, I suppose.
Well,
that's what they're chasing, like.
Exactly.
Stress and anxiety as well, you mentioned it. It's definitely something that's spreading all around the world. Everyone seems to be more stressed, more anxious, and I'm fairly sure there's a lot of research. Rachel will probably speak more to that a lot of research that phones are a factor.
Oh, absolutely. And the instant gratification that you get from your phone. So practice delaying gratification, which is one of the ATL skills and effective skills as well. I think that's hugely important. Just getting the students to slow down and just like be patient, wait. Don't always have a knee-jerk reaction.
The recognition that things take time, things don't happen at the drop of a hat in real life as well. It takes time for things to happen. It's not always like your Amazon delivery that's going to have next day delivery because you pay your $20 a month for Amazon Prime or whatever it is. That things actually take time to...
Well, we know that, but it doesn't matter how many times we tell the students that they're experiencing 6 or 7 different WhatsApp conversations with people. They're scrolling and getting your 10-second videos. So for them, things don't take time. But wait till they hit the real world, as we know.
Like for the canteen, if we have to pay for anything, we have to wait for Miss Rachel to get there first. And sometimes there's like a bunch of people that want to unlock their phones at the same time, just so then we can pay for our food.
Okay.
And then we have to put it back in and lock the pouch again for break and lunch.
So out of the 26 or so in your advisory group, how many would be using their phone to pay in the canteen? Like approximately?
I would say the majority.
Really?
Yeah.
Almost all of them, yeah.
Wow.
And then even the ones that have a Food Nation card, they have it on their phone.
Yeah. Also, the Food Nation card, I'm pretty sure you have to pay for it. So for some people,
So a lot of people, they don't want to get it because they have to pay to get the card.
It's just an extra hassle.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So there is that side of thing. I mean, these are things that can be ironed out, obviously, but it's interesting.
It's just the inconvenience in like art classes and things, because like even now that we have the pouches, like when we have art or anything, we have to take a picture, we have to use our laptops or something, and then your teacher's asking for better quality pictures that you can't really get like while trying to maneuver your laptop to get the pictures.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many variables in this whole setup. So what about the art teachers having the thing to release the pouch?
Oh yeah, that could work.
Yeah.
And then the design teachers as well. But to be honest, we use our phone to take pictures in almost every class. Or if we have a test where we need to take pictures of our test. That happens for math, humanities, and English.
When we get our tests back, we take pictures of them because we're not allowed to take the test itself home.
Yeah, I often see students videoing each other for a presentation or
especially in the languages.
And PE and
media arts as well.
Media arts. Okay, so so there's no easy answer yet, but
I think the program itself of trying to lower phone use during the day is a good idea, but it's just very hard to work around it without completely restricting.
It's just a self-control problem.
People just have to just follow the original rules, I feel like, because it's unfair for the people who do follow them and just have to go through an extra hassle of having the pouch so it should be implemented for people who regularly get caught using their phones or not
misuse their phone by taking pictures of other people. Then it would be a concern.
Or using their phone in class.
In my previous school, we had to put our phone in we had a pouch, a big thing. In class.
For all the phones.
Yeah.
At the front of the class.
Like shoes.
And then you take it out at the end of the class.
And that was in every single lesson.
Yeah.
Every single teacher had that in their class.
That's easier because then you see your phone.
I think that would be easier as well.
You see your phone and then you know that it's there, and it's not like it's locked. If you have a problem, you can just take it.
And in between class, were you allowed to use your phone or not?
Yeah. Well, not if the teacher sees. You just put it in your bag and then.
And the time between classes is usually like 5 minutes.
5 minutes. And if
Yeah, but that's the problem. You don't want people quickly checking a message and then seeing, oh, I've missed all these messages, and then thinking about for the next 2 hours before they get their phone again. This is the point.
Then maybe instead you can put it in the phone pouch in advisories, and then you could put it there at the beginning of the day and then return at the end of the day. But then
that's again the concept of having to go back to that class. That's the same thing as your advisory teacher.
But it's easier than having to unlock it.
But it's the same concept as your advisory teacher confiscating your phone for the day.
Another good thing might be that it makes the student get used to not being with their phone during the school day, because we're all very used to the concept that we always have our phone there, and if we don't have it, then that takes a part of us away, that we're so reliable on our phone. But another hassle that might be a problem is that at the end of the day, if everybody in MYP has it, how is everybody going to unlock it?
Well, these are logistical aspects we can.
The lineup for like trying to get your phone, because people have bus, people want to go home, their parents are calling, people are waiting, and it's like
also
puts pressure.
It might be a good idea to have, the station where teachers like clock in at the beginning of the day with their card. Yeah. You could have something like that, which unlocks at the end of the day, where students go and then unlock.
Yeah, near the gates.
Which locks during the day, so they can't do it, and then unlocks at the end of the day.
There you go. Good ideas. It is extremely important to gather the perspectives of the various stakeholders involved in a big decision, and of course the students will be directly involved. So it's important to provide opportunities for them to voice their opinions, to have agency in these big decisions. So during the week, John, of course, had many conversations with the students. So here are some more of his takes on how things went and where things are going. So what else have you noticed this week, and what advice could you give to the students as we give them their phones back next week?
I suppose it's a reluctance among the students to actually accept that something like this might be happening, but I think it's going to be a huge thing for students to get a break from phones, and I think building that human connection again, and it's a beneficial thing to be able to talk to people. So much of it now is they're contacting people through games, through online, through social media, which is okay, but when you're in school you have that time to build relationships.
Absolutely.
Get your people, like-minded people that you can rely on later on down the line, and that's something that I want to see students do as well. We want to develop them as people. It's one of the things I said coming in as a head of grade, was that I wanted to get them ready for the real world, be able to have conversations, be able to deal with things that come up, and that's something that I hope comes out of this week. There are a lot of schools that are doing it. I think it's law in Ireland now. I think it's coming in the UK. A lot of schools in Dubai have done it already. I know a few schools in Abu Dhabi are bringing it in. So schools are doing it, and it is successful.
Nice.
It's just about the implementation of it and
Absolutely.
getting the buy-in from students. But I think after this week, some students are saying, yeah, we have concerns, which is valid. They are valid concerns. But when we take those on board and we tweak it and refine it for Raha students, that's when we're going to have success.
So what does banning phones actually look like in practice? So you obviously know quite a lot about what's going on in Australia at the moment. So schools in Australia have been working on the issue of phones for a while, and many schools have implemented new rules, processes and guidelines around phones in schools. What can you tell us about that, Katie?
Yeah, so it's I worked at a number of state schools in Australia, and I also worked at a couple of private schools as well. In the state system, there's just a whole department-wide ban on phones in schools. 100% no phones in schools.
Okay, I read that, but also read something else. So is that definitive across all the states in Australia?
No, sorry, just the state that I worked in, New
sorry.
South Wales.
Okay, New South Wales.
I'm not 100% sure what's happening in other states.
Okay.
But New South Wales, ban of phones in state schools.
All right.
The two private schools I worked at, Pymble Ladies College, which is a leading international private school, and then also a private school in my hometown. Both of them have taken a different strategy. So Pymble Ladies College have introduced the Wise phone. So when students get to, I think it's year 4 or year 5, parents have the option of opting into a Wise phone, which is a phone provided by the school, but it's specifically designed to only have certain functionality on it, but that functionality increases as the students get older to fit with their psychological development. So for instance, years 5 to 7, They can still use tap payments for things. They can still have a camera.
Okay.
They will have certain school-based apps. They might have Teams, for instance, but then only certain functionalities within Teams. And parents can still track them. There's still a trapper location apparatus in there, but they have no ability to get onto social media.
Wow.
But I'll go back to the other school that I was working at as well, just before I moved to the UAE, and they use the pouch system. So they go into homeroom advisory, all phones go in pouches, and they go back to advisory at the end of the day to get their phone.
Okay.
So similar to what we're trialing here.
Okay.
Okay. Anecdotally, last time I spoke to friends who are still working at that school, they said it was game changer. Loved it. Said students were so much more attentive. It just transformed things. Teachers couldn't have been more happy.
So, of course, a lot of the students are using the phones for gaming, but then there's the other side, and that's the more insidious, I guess, the bullying and that sort of thing. So having a blanket ban during the day would help with that, of course. But who do you think sort of is affected more in your experience? Is it boys, girls, and which age groups?
So all students are affected. And the research suggests that girls are affected at a landslide compared to boys in terms of bullying, pressures to fit in, to look a certain way. Body image is certainly impacted for girls. Not to say that boys aren't, but social media has a profound impact on our girls, and then our boys are more so impacted on games, particularly games where there are like multiplayer chats that go on. I don't really know a lot of the names of the games, but those types of games where they can kind of come together and they're all on the same game or game site, and then they can chat, and there's people that can join those from all over the world, and you see just absolutely vile comments and dialogue between the boys that are engaging in these games.
Yeah, I've seen it. Those first-person shooter games as well, where they somehow manage to have comments and dialogue whilst killing people. So it's not necessarily the most healthy way to spend your time. But if it's for a short space of time here and there, fair enough. But as you say, it's too often. It happens at school as well, which we're definitely trying to avoid.
It's become the norm. So because it's become normal for students, that contributes to the rewiring of their brains. Their brains, as neurologically developing entity, it's literally rewiring how students see this type of language and absorb it. And when they start to assign this type of dialogue as normal, we then start to see it transform, kind of transgress into real life, and that's why we see some, really just awful treatment that our students have towards each other in real life, because for them, this is normal. They've grown up with this. They've grown up with this comment section mentality. It's nothing for somebody to pop off in the comment section or in a thread somewhere, and our kids have grown up with that. So for them, that is normal, but we have to rewrite that to teach them that is categorically not normal.
Thank you. I mean, this is probably stating the obvious, but parenting obviously comes in a lot. So if we can just sort of wrap up here and give the parents a little bit of advice, what would you say are the absolute minimum steps the parents should be taking?
I'm not a parent, so I always feel very unqualified giving parents advice.
But you are qualified.
But as an expert working with kids, they are at an age now where they are going to be testing the limits. They are going to be exposed to a lot of different things. I think that our parents should feel, it is their right and feel entitled to know every single thing that their child is doing on the internet. It's a black hole. There's no end to the internet and the access that our kids have to different content that's on the internet. I would encourage parents to, set healthy screen limits. I would encourage parents to be familiar with the algorithms that are pushed to their kids. That's a whole other topic about, how websites, games, social media is literally rewired to fit your child's engagement. So being familiar with their algorithm and what types of content that they're absorbing, I think is crucial. Looking at their For You page, what types of videos are showing up. And if your child tries to say, oh, well, it's just random, it's not, and it's curated for your child with what they interact with.
That's great. Thanks so much for your wisdom, and looking forward to seeing where this takes us after this phone-free week. I know there's still a bit of discussing to happen behind the scenes, but thanks so much for getting the ball rolling on that, and have a great weekend.
Thanks so much, Fawn. Have a good one.
Okay, so we'll wrap up this episode with the final part of the conversation I had with Katie, our school counsellor. Katie provides some really useful insights into recent research as well as practical strategies for parents. Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to getting more episodes out in the very near future, talking about global academic perspectives.
It's really interesting because anecdotally, I feel like every person you speak to who has gone through these phone bans, phone pouches, and have restricted the use of phones for kids in schools only report positive things. Then the longitudinal studies or scientific research is a little bit more nuanced than that. And a lot of it says it's inconclusive. Now, part of me wonders, has enough time passed yet for us to see the real results of not having phones in schools? Because we've had phones in schools for 10 years? So I think the ubiquity of every student having a phone from very young ages, we do have a number of years of looking at that. So do we have it? And the phone bans in schools are quite recent, like it's probably in the last 2-3 years, where there's sort of been enough happening across different schools, different states, different countries, where you can sort of start to see some patterns emerge. Personally, if I were to give my opinion, I'd say yes, let's take phones out of schools. I think overall that would be a good thing. However, what are we supplementing it with? What are we substituting it with in terms of supporting students to cope with stress and to manage relationships and to self-soothe and self-regulate? Do they have enough tools and skills to do that without a phone yet?
So, in terms of what do we replace it with, technically we shouldn't be replacing it with anything because they shouldn't be having them in the first place. But I see what you're saying though, because just knowing that it's there, knowing that if you desperately need to text someone or sneakily phone your mum because you've forgotten your PE kit or whatever the case may be, it's sort of a safety blanket for them, and we are taking that away. So, yes.
And when you talk about that, Vaughan, it makes me think of a couple of other studies that I've been reading, and this is about adult phone use. So it's not even about, kids' neural development and attention in schools. It's not about that, but it's about the impact of phone on us as a society. They've also done studies of productivity at work, and they've shown, and I'm guilty, I'm so guilty of this, if you have your phone in your pocket or in your bag, on the table is worse, so it's in grades.
Okay.
Phone on table, not as productive. Phone in pocket, a little bit more productive, but still unproductive overall. Phone in bag, better, but still not great. And then compare that to phone in another room, way more productive.
Wow.
So just the presence of a phone changes our brain. It changes our attention, our concentration. So even if students are doing the right thing about not bringing their phone out, using it only at the right time, just the presence of the phone, it has an impact.
Oh, I have no doubt.
Because it's a choice they have to make. If they have the access to the phone, they're thinking, should I pull it out? Who's watching? Oh no, I better, no. It's still a decision they have to make. It's still a set of risk benefit that they have to go through, and that mental energy could be put towards writing this essay or learning this algorithm.
So what advice, let's just wrap up here. I've learned so much from you already, Katie, but what advice would you give then to, firstly, the students in that age group, and then the parents in terms of outside of school time? Because, we really don't want them going home and spending 8 hours on their phone, do we?
Like me. No, definitely not. The advice to students is a really tricky one, because with the age that I work with, I really don't know how much control they have over their own phone use. It's habitual now.
Okay.
It is so habitual. So in terms of them managing their own phone use, I wouldn't trust them to do that whatsoever. They need the railroads put around them. They need the structure. They need.
So it's up to the parents.
It's up to the parents. It's up to the teachers. It's up to the policy. But it's so pervasive. It's so habitual. It's so embedded in our society that one parent taking a phone or like limiting a kid's use of their phone by themselves, it could be diabolical for the kid. It has to be a community response. The community has to be in alignment with each other.
Everyone just has to, it has to be one tidal wave,
yes.
Otherwise it ain't going to work.
Exactly. It's a community approach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Katie. Appreciate all your amazing insights.
You're welcome.